Alright guys, welcome to Fanter Fishing. Today you join us on the famous River Trent, and as you can probably see behind me is the famous Conveyor Weir, which is in Collingham. I'm down with Mike today. We drove all the way down in search of barbel. Obviously along the session we might pick up bonus chub or even big roach, or there is carp and other species in here and a few surprises, but we're here today for the barbel. We'll talk about the approach a little bit later. Unfortunately, we're not fishing in the famous swim 1, as it's booked for about 18 months, but we are here midweek at the end of August, so hopefully it'll be a bit quieter than the circus it can sometimes be at the weekend. So we're going to have a little wander about. There's a few little spots that we've looked on Google Maps and on Facebook and things, and heard catch reports from, so we're going to see how busy them areas are. Hopefully find a swim soon, get the rods out and be able to show you some barbel. But we'll catch up with you in a little bit. But we're going to soak up the scenery. It's absolutely beautiful here, and yeah, get the rods out eventually. Right, so we're in the swim now, swim known as the Conveyor, due to this big thing behind us. The swims are actually quite close together, so they're not the most comfortable of swims. We're on a right slope here, so putting down a bed chair for the night is going to be interesting. Mike's just to the left of me, probably about 20 or so metres away, but oh, Mike's in, I think. Perhaps not, but his battery is definitely running out on his alarm. So yeah, I've got 2 rods out each. Like I said earlier, I'll explain the method and that, but at the moment it's just very, very wet. So we'll wait till this is blown over and we'll talk to you. Morning guys, it's day 2. Obviously you've not seen us for a little while. Last time you see us we were picking a swim, but the conditions last night were fairly awful. It rained from when we got here all the way through setting up, all the way through the night pretty much till the early hours. During that time we picked up a bream each, me and Mike, which weren't exactly ideal, tiny skimmers, but we managed to make it through the night. Plenty of recasts, got wiped out by weed in the night. Had an aborted sort of take on one rod as well, but just at first light I managed to get my first barbel, and here she is. No monster by any means, but I'm more than happy with this. I'm made up to get my first one. Absolutely solid fish, weighing in at about £5 an ounces, but like I said, weight isn't important. Pristine looking fish, hard fighting, built like a torpedo. I'm going to get a couple of still photos. As you can see, it's a lovely morning now. We've rested the fish really well, and while it was rested in the sling just in the margins, I've got my other rod out because there's fish topping all out in front of us now, so only small fish, but there's plenty about. So yeah, gonna get a couple of still photos and we're getting back safely rested. Alright guys, as promised, I'll take you through the setup that we're using today. There's a little bit of downtime at the moment, sort of middle of the day, not renowned for bites, so just had a bit of weed come through as the tides dropped in, and it wiped out my left hand rod, so I thought it's the perfect time to show you what I'm fishing with. So I've got a 6,000 size Collingham Neoteric bait runner reel. That's got 15 pound mono line on it. I've got the matching Neoteric FS 2.2 test curve rod, which is 12 foot in length, and the main line goes straight through to a bolt and run kit, which obviously enables me to fish running style, or I can fish it as a bolt rig by clipping it in like that. Feeders are a 5.3 gram. Obviously, with being a tidal stretch of the river, the flow is quite strong, so you need a heavy lead to hold bottom. I'm using long hook links, so these are about 4 foot in length. At the moment I'm using Preston Innovations AccuPower in 9.14 £, and follow the hook is a size 10 hook, and I'm fishing a hair rig with a sauce boilie and a small bit of pepperami, which was a tip given to me by my friend Adi. So that's what done the business for the fish, and it's what's done the bites for the bream. Have mixed it around. I've got some other pellets, some bits and pieces we've been using, and I'll talk about what I'm putting in the feeder shortly. So leading on to the bait that we're using, like I said earlier, we're using the sauce boilies. These are 12 mil, and what we did, obviously these are shelf life bait, and they come sealed and you can reseal them. So all we did was half a pot of, got a couple of packs of these, put half a pot of glug in, sealed it up and shook them up just to give them a bit more smell. I personally think in sort of all aspects of fishing, scent plays a big part in it. So if we can draw fish in, then obviously it's going to be a bonus. As for the ground bait mix, so in the ground bait mix we obviously riddled it out all the ground bait first, and this ground bait mix is a mixture of lots of different things really. We've got casters in here, hemp, we've got some small Sonia Baits krill pellets, and the ground bait itself is a Sonia Baits salmon ground bait. So yeah, nicely riddled through, really nice and soft. There's bits and pieces in here, but not too much to fill fish up. And I've been putting these in my feeder the whole time I've been here. So yes, looks the part. Obviously at the moment it's not been the session that we sort of imagined. We maybe thought we might have more bites by now. I know this place is no walkover, but generally if you're having a fish, they will come in large shoals. Obviously we had a solitary bite on my rod, and since that Mike had a bite as well and it was cut off on his hook link. So we are contemplating a move. We're seeing how the day goes. It's been very quiet. Like I said earlier, the days aren't prolific here generally. It's the night times, early mornings and things that tend to do the majority of the fish. That being said, it is fishing and anything can happen, so you can have it off in the daytimes. The tide obviously plays a bit of a part with that as well, but we've been scoping out a few other little spots. Mike's reeled in his rods a couple of times and took a trip in the car to some of the other spots that we've sort of been eyeing up. So potentially there's a move on the cards, but we'll see how we go on that one. Right guys, I missed the fight. I've got a second one in the net. Slightly bigger I'd say, but a bit of a different technique. I think it's the definition of insanity that you keep doing the same thing and you expect different results. So all I did was get a grain of maize, 3 fake maggots and a little shot on the end instead of a boilie stop. Almost looks like it. Put it out, half hour later, second barbel. So I did say before that we were thinking about potentially swapping swims, but you know, I think I'll stay here now and put both rods on this. I think the boilie technique's overdone, and this little change has brought this little beauty along, so I'm going to take a couple of still shots and we'll release him nicely. Finally, I just wanted to talk about bait deliverance. It's not like your normal river, this river. Like we said earlier about the flow, it is extreme. If you threw your bait in by hand, it may never touch the bottom because the flow would just take it on and into somebody else's swim. So you need a way of getting the bait onto the bottom. So most of you will probably be aware of a bait dropper system. Used originally when I started fishing was just by matchmen, but they've made extra large sizes and bits and pieces now. Friends have used them in the past and said that with the big boulders and things here, they're often not up to the job. Hinges start to go, pins start to bend, and you just start going through them fairly quickly. So some of you may have seen these online. You can buy kits to convert your spoms now. They're known as a spopper, a spom dropper. So the kits, this is a Fox spom, but it's been converted, and there's a large bit of lead in the bottom and a plunger, and that hooks through the bottom of the spom. When this goes into the water, it sinks, hits the bottom of the lake bed where it pings open. So in theory, that should be dropping all of your bait on the deck. The bait that we're spodding out is a mixture of particle, hemp, small pellets and boilies. The thought behind this is that the bottom is stone majority. The majority of it is stone. You've got rocks, gravel, bits and pieces like that. So the smaller particles, instead of rolling and going with the tide and bits and pieces, in theory are sticking in these little nooks and crannies, and the barbel are coming in and munching around, and hopefully they're going to come across our hook baits. I think it gives you a massive advantage to be able to get bait out there and get it on the deck, because without that, if you do get a show of fish coming, you're never going to keep them on your baits. They're just going to pick and choose a few bits. You might pick up one and then they're going to go to the next spot. So if they do come across your spot, you want to be able to keep them there. And with this spom dropper, it makes it a lot easier. Morning guys, a bit of a hectic night last night. It's now 6 o'clock, so just to keep you updated, so probably around about 11 o'clock I had a take on the left hand rod. Had the fish on for about 6 or 7 minutes, I suppose. Definitely a barbel, but when I got it into the margins it was at low tide, and there was lots of jagged rocks about and bits and pieces like that, and it managed to cut me off on a hook link, unfortunately. Undeterred, tied up again, got it straight back out there. Didn't have to wait too long before the tip bounced around again, and I had a little chub, which is very welcome to me. Didn't weigh it, just a quick shot on the mat and a safe release back. There was clearly sort of fish in the area, which was different from the night before where we picked up the one solitary fish. So I wanted to get the rods back out. Again, being dark, it makes things difficult, as most of you know, when night fishing. But did everything to the best of my ability. Got the rods out there again, and it wasn't long before I had another take on that rod with a barbel that was successfully landed. And that was probably around half an hour ago. So these fish, they put everything into the fight, and when you get them into the net, they're almost just drifting, almost like they've died. They haven't, they're just very, very tired. So everyone puts a lot of emphasis on resting fish. It's not just after you've had them on the mat and out of the water taking a photo. Rest them before you get them out of the water. You know what I do is I've got a retention sling that's always on standby. As soon as the fish comes over, I unhook it in the water, transfer it to a retention sling, get my other rod, put in a fresh bait on, pop it back out. By the time I've done all that, the fish is well rested. You can pop it out, take a photo, rest it once again, and let it go again. Anyway, after that fish is sitting down in the sling, just about to get the camera out, do a little bit of filming and show you guys, and the same rod's gone off again. So there's certainly fish in the area. I've only got about 2 hours, I think 3 hours. We've got to be off at 9 o'clock this morning. But I've got 2 fish down in the retention sling. I'm going to get them out now and give you a look at them. I'll see you in a second. Right guys, so they're out of the water now. Didn't weigh the smaller of the 2. They're really energetic just from a little bit of rest. So this is a smaller one. Interesting enough, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but it's got stripes on it that look like a perch. But yeah, didn't weigh him. The slightly bigger one. Again, really energetic, so I'm not going to pick them up too high, but this one went £6.5. Slightly smaller than the one I caught yesterday of £6.9, but really happy to catch both of these, so not going to keep them out of the water too long. I'm going to take a couple of photos, and I think probably it's my last fish of the trip, but we'll see. Right, so obviously I explained earlier that I made a change to my approach, and I think it has made a difference in the catch rates. Obviously picked up 1 fish, sit behind dead rods basically. They weren't doing anything with the boilies on. My thoughts are that the fish have seen it, and perhaps if I scale down that it might pick up a fish. Since then I've had 5 bites, I've landed 4 fish, 3 of them being barbel. So same setup with the running rig system and the bolt and run rig. 5.3 ounce feeder filled with feeder, and then on the business end just a single grain of maize, 3 artificial maggots and a little shot instead of a hair stop. And basically all that's doing is just sitting on the deck like so, and that's what's been picking up the fish basically. So if you do come down to the Trent, bring some casters with you, bring some artificial casters or maggots, and be open-minded about the approach, because a lot of people come down here with the same thing in their mind, that they're going to come out boilie fish or pellet fish, and sometimes, you know, you can scale down and you can still catch a fish. Right, so we're all packed up. I had a little bream just after we last spoke, but yeah, the car's absolutely ramo. I'm packed in here like a sardine. 2 and 3/4 hour journey back to Mike's, and then an hour for me from Mike's home. So a long journey. It's 9 AM. But yeah, been a really good session. Really enjoyed myself. Caught my first barbel. Set myself a PB to beat for next time we come down. But yeah, everything went to plan, and I really enjoyed myself. So hopefully you enjoyed it too. Hopefully you picked up something from it. If you're watching the video thinking of coming to the Trent for the first time, then might give you a few ideas. I'm no expert, this is the first time I've ever done it, but yeah, I think it's been quite a success. Anyway, if you've got any questions or anything, leave them down in the comments section. As always, a thumbs up's appreciated, and if you want to see more videos like this, I fish for all species, so hit that subscribe button and you'll keep up to date. Catch you later.